I never thought I would reach that point. The point where you wake up and wish you hadn't, where every breath feels heavy, and the world looks gray, no matter how bright the sun shines. My name doesn't really matter. What matters is that I was broken completely. For years, I chased what the world told me was happiness. Money, success, recognition. I worked day and night, believing that if I could just reach the top, I'd finally feel fulfilled. But when I got there, I realized I had lost everything that truly mattered. My marriage was falling apart. My kids barely looked me in the eye, and deep inside, I felt empty like a shell of the person I used to be. One night, after another meaningless argument, I left home and drove aimlessly. The rain was pouring down, blurring my vision, both inside and out. I pulled over, shut off the engine, and just sat there in the silence. Tears began to fall, first slowly, then uncontrollably. It felt like every failure, every regret, every moment I had disappointed someone came crashing down on me, all at once. And then, I whispered the words I hadn't said in years. God, are you still there? Silence. Just the sound of the rain hitting the windshield. So I screamed louder, God, if you're real, please, show me, because I can't do this anymore. And then, something happened. Not a thunderclap, not a voice from heaven, just peace. For the first time in years, my heart felt still. It was as if someone had gently placed a hand on my shoulder and whispered, I'm here. I can't explain it. It wasn't something I saw. It was something I felt deep in my soul. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a pounding headache. But something was different. I didn't feel like running anymore. I felt seen. I went home, unsure if my family would even let me in. When my wife opened the door, she didn't say a word. She just looked at me, then started crying. And for the first time in years, I cried with her, not out of anger or frustration, but out of surrender. That day, I told her everything. The lies I had told, the pride I carried, the pain I hid, and instead of judgment, she whispered, let's start over. It was in that moment that I realized sometimes God doesn't fix your life overnight. He begins by fixing your heart. From that day forward, I started seeking Him. Not the way I used to, not out of fear or obligation, but out of a desperate hunger to know who He really is. I began to pray again, even when it felt awkward. I opened the Bible, even when the words didn't make sense at first. And, slowly, everything began to change. My priorities shifted. My heart softened. The anger that used to consume me started to fade. I found joy not in what I owned, but in who I was becoming. I started to see God's fingerprints everywhere. In the laughter of my children, in the way my wife looked at me with forgiveness instead of pain, in the sunrise that reminded me every morning that His mercies are new every day. There were still hard days. Days when the old guilt came creeping back, reminding me of everything I used to be. But now, I had a different response. Instead of running from my past, I placed it in God's hands and said, Lord, use it. If you can turn my mess into a message, do it. And He did. God began to open doors for me to share my story. At first, it was just with friends, then in my church, and eventually with complete strangers who told me, your story gave me hope. That's when I realized the pain that once almost destroyed me was now the very thing God was using to heal others. I used to think God had abandoned me, but now I see that He was with me the whole time, even in the silence, even in the darkness. He was just waiting for me to stop trying to control everything and finally let Him take over. If you're listening to this and you feel like your life has fallen apart, I want you to hear me clearly. God has not forgotten you. You may not see it now. You may not feel it, but He's there working behind the scenes, turning your pain into purpose, your tears into testimony. Sometimes He allows everything to be stripped away, not because He's cruel, but because He knows the only way to fill your heart is to first empty it of everything that I sent from Him. And when He rebuilds you, you'll understand why you had to go through the storm. Because I do now. I lost everything I thought I needed, but I found the one thing that truly matters, God's love. It saved me. It healed my family. It gave me a new life. And today, I can stand here and say with certainty, even in my darkest night, God never left me. So if you're in that place now, broken, tired, empty, don't give up. You're not alone. Because the same God who found me is ready to find you too. All you have to do is whisper His name. Thank you so much for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content like this. We're building a community of hope here, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. God bless.